Demon Slayer follows teenage Samurai Jack with a sister complex hunting down a Bakuno reject for administering blood transfusions to unsuspecting passerby. If that doesn't tip you off that the guy is unequivocally evil, then the unprovoked sadism and glowing red eyes will. Speaking of flavor, Demon Slayer is most comparable to vanilla. It hits those standard shonen beats harder than a hit that like button and subscribe. I'm kidding, simmer down. Overlong fights where someone freezes time to explain the paradigm of his battle plan. Characters jumping out of the trees with all the subtlety of a fire alarm because God forbid these bona fide assassins use stealth to their advantage. MC Tanjiro popping off with classic lines like,
"I know I have what it takes!"
Or,
"The bond between Nezuko and I cannot be severed! Not by anyone!"
The same problems that have plagued the genre for years resurface in this Sacred Cow. Our story starts off in bumfuck nowhere. Tanjiro lives with his family in a loving environment with a bad-filled oh sweet Christ to know. They all die as developed as a blank photo, obviously an afterthought when the writers forgot to give Tanjiro a reason to play samurai. His sister is alive, but turned into a demon for whatever reason, we don't know. Isn't this show pretty? Now Tanjiro heads out in search of ways to turn Nezuko back into a human, even though she's way cooler now. Maybe it's because she can't speak like every other demon in the show, but whatever, look at these sexy visuals. I've never been a fan of seasonal waifu bait. Mai, Tanya, Zero Two, they're all more disposable than a used condom, present mainly to advertise the show and prop it up if its writing is subpar. Nezuko is no different. Cute girl turned demon, and inexplicably doesn't mistake the protag's face for a number 9 large. Why is she the only demon to demonstrate this behavior? To be fair, this does serve as a mystery to keep the audience engaged, but the mystery is so out of focus it doesn't matter anyway. Demon Slayer lucked out though, because most viewers are content to see Tanjiro do epic parkour, give the show a 10, and never ask anything of the sort. In Kimetsu no Family, encounters usually start like so.
I'm going to kill you and eat your entrails like spaghetti!
I find that mildly disagreeable. Will Tanjiro defeat the demon, or will he die and the show end right then and there? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. He wins, he kills the demon, big shocker. It's a tried and true format, it services the salvageable element of the show well enough, but it's less intense than a sacked camping trip. Who would have guessed that Mr. Main Character wouldn't be in danger when the stakes are constantly life or death? It's too predictable for me to care about the outcome, even less so when the antagonists have the polish of something rusty, I guess? Jokes are hard sometimes. And while Demon Slayer does the bare minimum and grants our resident bloodsuckers backstories, they're presented right as or after the demon dies, so the impact is lost. We're given the intricacies of a demon's human life, their insecurities, desires, morning routine, and dick size only after doing so would have invested the viewer. A good story sets up real stakes by showing the motivations and driving forces behind the characters before they duke it out. There's no point in building up a baddie after they bite it. If you want me to care about a villain, maybe flesh him out first and decapitate him second. Dead schmucks don't push the plot, and they're not very interesting. Not to entirely dismiss the high blood pressure vampiric assholes, there is certainly a creative variety in Tanjiro's adversaries, if variety means a different coat of paint on the functionally identical roadblock. One guy has drums protruding from his body and slaps them to shift the gravity and location of a room. Another guy swims underground and kidnaps people by dragging them under. At the end of the day, however, they exist only to get beheaded by Tanjiro, leaving the plot progression linear and thus devoid of intrigue. There is a scattering of cool moments though. Here they are.
Shit! Whoa! Ah, what the fuck? Ah! What the fuck is going on? No! Fuck! What? Holy shit! Oh my god, he's so fucking badass!
Unfortunately, the spectacle of the fight is often sullied when Tanjiro activates his Talk no Jutsu, and the life and death battle is put on pause. Is it too much to ask that you just shut up and fight? Why is the guy that spent 2 years isolated in the fucking mountains so goddamn talkative? Demon Slayer took the rule of show don't tell out back and gave it the Atticus Finch special. You have these cool action shots, these dick-enlargening scenes of raw, unfiltered sakuga, and the show destroys the hype with a demon's inner monologue wondering where Tanjiro got his plot armor, as if the audience can't follow the conflict without a play-by-play. Then you look at Tanjiro vs Inosuke, and it's actually pretty fun. There's not much talking, very few freeze frames, and the outcome is unclear so it's engaging. No lectures on morality interspersed with their punches, no conferences held to explain their abilities. It's definitely my favorite fight in the show. I'm not against back-and-forth dialogue in fights, but it only works when there's deeper themes behind the clash. When your antagonists have all the depth of a kiddie pool, it gets really annoying to watch Tanjiro blow his cover by shouting that those who have a strong bond give off the scent of trust? You fucking dumbass, just fucking sneak attack. I'm not an animation junkie, but I'd be remiss not to mention the one episode nobody seems to shut the hell up about. This fight comes off as a pissing contest between animators while the writing staff fuck off to snort coke off a hooker's bleached asshole. Yes, it's very cool when Tanjiro beheads the this emo bitch, but the next episode, said bitch admits he did it himself to survive, rendering this scene kinda silly in retrospect. Nice job, Tanjiro! You managed to fail completely, but it was badass while the delusion lasted. Thought experiment, viewer. Look at this web of blood, malice, and death, and tell me you needed the name Blood Demon Art Cutting Thread Cage to understand it'll eviscerate anything it touches. Do you really need more than the visuals and music to tell you that Tanjiro is about to pull something out of his ass? Don't ask questions, watch the fucking fight scene! The characters of Kimetsu no Yabai are, in a word, stagnant. Tanjiro undergoes rigorous training throughout the runtime, but at the end of it all, he's the same dumbass shonen protagonist.
Fuck off!
Zenitsu's gimmick is being a coward to an obnoxious degree, which is a shame because the few times he shuts up he's not that bad. Surprisingly, Inosuke, the markedly loud character, is the most entertaining, mainly because his presence adds levity to a scene more organically than Yellow Bitch Boy ever could. Not to mention he's the only character with a hint of development. After getting his ass whooped, Inosuke has an epiphany that maybe he isn't that strong after all, and for a time after the encounter is downtrodden as a result. It's certainly more than the villain gets, at least. At risk of sounding like a heretic, I enjoyed the scenes outside of combat far more. Tanjiro and the boys training their cooties' resilience, walking a long country road in silence. These parts were much needed breathing room from the tropey bits of the show. Small moments like these do wonders to build characters, and Demon Slayer could have used much more of them. To summarize, cool action scenes are ruined by an abundance of shonen cliches, but I did like the quieter moments. Was gonna give this show a 4 out of 10, but bumped it up to a 5 for that one song I've been listening to non-stop, as well as the one title card with a missing texture. So, bye-bye.